There we go. That's better. Hi, Jim.
You start all over now?
No.
At the beginning.
Sorry, folks, out there in video land. You didn't miss much. You can go to the last episode, and catch up on this. So, he wrote so much and spoke so much, of course, too, because the majority of what he's communicating in that day was probably word of mouth also, right? And so sometimes things are transmitted in that fashion, too. Either which way you slice it, this little story was decided by the early fathers probably to include into the Gospel of John, credited to him, probably because he had written it someplace else in some letter or something like that, or just was talking about it and it was spread throughout the church in those days. And because of the who that's involved in it, what better place to put it than in the Feast of Tabernacles, because of what Jesus was actually doing in the Feast of Tabernacles, in the Sukkot, in the temple, teaching and presenting defenses about who and what he was. Okay, does that all make sense? It's a decent placement, especially. I think you'll feel that, what happens before and what happens after this edition here, quote unquote, that it works really well in the space and time that was going on already in that situation, right? Because he was spending all his time teaching in the temple courts when he came up to this specific feast. No record at all of doing any miracles, but a lot of teaching. A lot of teaching. And it was getting a lot of attention. Back to the temple he goes every morning while he's there and he's teaching. They drag this woman in. Only a woman. Only the woman. Drag her and drop her in front of them. It says, the law says a woman like this should be stoned to death. She was caught in the act of adultery. And of course all the questions are, where's the guy? Where's the guy? If she was caught in the middle of an adulterous act, where's the guy? Who caught her? That's convenient. Right, that's all very convenient. The guy also was guilty. Pardon me?
Why were they there?
Why were they there? Yeah. All this very convenient stuff going on that Jesus doesn't even address. And he doesn't argue with them either. You notice that? He doesn't argue the specifics of the Torah law. Because that's what they're trying to pin him with. He's too smart for that, Steve.
Kind of going along with where was the guy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we read later on in the passage, they all left.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they were the people that were involved with the adultery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and this is a nice little coincidence, nice little thing that happened to me yesterday. That I was looking at the interlinear in this section for this text right here, and I hadn't before. And I noticed that, that's interesting, because the New American Standard that we had on the screen last week and the NIV that we got on the screen right now, neither one of them translate the Greek in verse 9. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time. The older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Now watch this. A little hard to read, especially with this light. It's kind of bright this morning. So, here's verse 9. And having heard, and by their conscience being convicted.
Wow.
Not even in the English translations. I don't know, I have no answer for that. Because the NASB especially, they take a lot of trouble and pain to go word by word by word by word and translate them into an appropriate contemporary English word. And we'll give you italicized words in the English sentence if the word isn't actually located in the Greek in order to make the English sentence make sense. They go to a lot of trouble to do that. And it's not even there. It's not even there. That's peculiar to me. Very odd. Their conscience got the better of them. Well, did you have to really say that, Bruce? Not necessarily, right? It's kind of implied, and so maybe they're just going with the implication. But the words are literally there. Literally there, right? Their conscience started bugging them. They didn't just simply get cornered. Okay, it'd be easy to go with that, right? If you say, they didn't just simply get cornered. Jesus answered them, instead of hearing anything that they thought they wanted to hear out of him. He posed that. Let the person who's out without sin be the first to throw the first stone. And remembering, we did go over this last week, when it came to capital crimes, they were executed by stoning by the community, not by professional executioners, by the community. And the first people to throw the first stones were to be the witnesses. Let them be the first one to throw the first stone. He's referencing that. He's referencing that language from the Torah, and they know it. Steve?
Going back to someone said, bringing up the fact of conscience, and the only way I realized that was just by the fact when, as it's written, they left the oldest to the youngest without. And that kind of, in my mind, says, is that guilt?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy for us to interpret this as saying, well, they all just felt like there's no way that they were going to show themselves to be sinless or guiltless. And so they had to walk away.
What is the trap they're trapping him with? Killing her? Is that, I mean, they're trying to trap him, right? So
Thank you for saying that.
what trap is this? Is it the death sentence they're trying to blame it on him?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, are they placing him in the judgment seat? Is that what you're saying?
Are they allowed
Partly.
to? Well, I know that with his death, they had to go through Rome to kill him. So are they trying to bust him for sentencing her to death without going through Rome first?
That's a very good question.
Or I can't understand. I can't think of any other way. Or are they gonna? Is there some sort of zinger they were gonna pull out on him if he did condemn her?
So
why are they trapping him? With what?
That is a excellent question that I didn't even put in my notes about that. That's a really, really good question at this point in the account of the gospel, right? Because as we go on, and this is something that I thought I had a grip on, I thought I had a good understanding of, was that about You know, were they allowed as a Sanhedrin
To kill people.
to kill people, to execute people? See, we have been working under a presumption based on a couple things that are said explicitly that they had no authority to.
But Paul did. So where did that
All right?
go? So
Right?
what trap is it?
Yeah, see, they did have authority.
Okay.
So much so that, and we're not even anywhere near this text yet, but when we get to it, we're going to mention, we're going to see that when the Jewish leaders went to Pilate to ask him to execute him for them, when their only beef with him was a religious beef that was just their problem. He did not have a problem with them stoning to death their own. Why would he? Right?
Yeah.
Why would he? Especially when it's something stupid like that. Right? And he literally gave them permission to go and stone them themselves. Pilate did. He says this.
Because it didn't break any Roman law.
They didn't break any Roman law, that's right. It's only when it comes to the breaking of the Roman law that they're getting themselves in huge trouble and probably end up on a cross themselves. Right? By the end of this chapter, Jesus almost gets stoned to death. Spoiler alert. And it's not the first time. Who, when it happens, either one of the times that he almost gets stoned to death, who stopped it? Did anyone stop it?
Besides God?
Besides God. Besides God.
Nicodemus?
No, nobody.
The witnesses.
Nobody, because those who were going to stone them were who? They were people who were listening to him.
That's right.
They were just the people who just decided they had had enough, and they were just, watch. Watch as we proceed through chapter 8. They've had more than they can handle from this guy, what he's saying about himself and them. That they're ready to pick up rocks and stone him right then and there, right in the temple courtyard.
That same spirit is around today.
Of course it is.
Very,
Yeah.
very active.
Yeah. Mark?
Well, it's interesting that what they do, how the Sanhedrin gets around it, how the Pharisees get around it is, he says a different king. But, you know, the thing is, the fact of the matter is, all of them do. The Sanhedrin says there's a different
Yes.
king too.
Yes. Exactly. So this, you have to bring in the religious culture, you have to bring in the historical culture, the political culture, the language, right, of scenarios like this to best understand and ask these kind of questions. Ask those kind of questions. It's what really pulls the true thing that's going on here in front of us out in a really more full way. They were willing to risk this woman's life. Think about that. They were willing to risk this woman's life, who they set up, by trying to set up Jesus. That is about as obscene as it gets. That's horrible. And he puts them in their place. He puts them in their place with a statement, just one statement, that is referencing their own consciences and their own knowledge of the Torah, and their own knowledge of what really happened. He didn't have to make a decision for them. He didn't have to argue with them about the Torah, about whether they were right or wrong about the penalty for adultery. She was probably a prostitute. We don't see that, okay? But the more you think about this story, you know, they didn't drag any witnesses in with them, quote unquote, just the woman. They say she was caught in adultery. A capital crime requires 2 or more witnesses. Where's the witnesses? He doesn't even ask for witnesses. He doesn't say, well, first of all, you know, if this is a trial, the Torah says we need to have 2 or more witnesses. He doesn't even go there with them, because he doesn't have to. He sees their hearts. He sees the reality in front of them, and so do they. And he gives them the right answer. He gives them the true answer. Gives them an answer that is going to sear their conscience, and then writes in the sand, and reminds them by the doing of that, Jeremiah 17:13. We don't have to guess really that much if we know Jeremiah 17:13, which they do. It's a passage talking about judgment of the Jewish nation, and their names are going to be written on the earth. All these things going on right in front of them, in their midst. That's all he needs. That's all he needs to do. And so we kind of minimize this story a little bit, even though we love this story, rightly so, right? We all know it. Even the world uses the terminology out of this story, right? Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. How many times have you heard that in your lifetimes? It's a worn out statement, right? Because it's utilized and employed for all the wrong reasons also, right? So you're borrowing that? Really, you're borrowing that right now to say that? Well, thank you for quoting Jesus. That's very kind of you. Very self-righteous of you. Also, when they all leave, end up being gone, and remember, he's in the temple courtyard during booths, so there's no way that there are no witnesses to all this incident. He came there already to teach. And the courtyards are always full of people during Sukkot. So there was witnesses to this incident. And the Jewish leaders that bring this woman in are now leaving, never to forget this incident. Never to forget what Jesus said and did to them when they were trying to do something to him and to her, and actually sacrifice her life because they were so insistent on their power and not letting Jesus share any of that. Share any of it. They were going to get it. They were going to get him. And we're going to make it public. We're going to have all kinds of witnesses hear what he has to say. Well, they did. They did. They absolutely did. They were right. He straightens up and asks her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" Has no one condemned you? See, they charged her, but nobody condemned her. Because condemnation is when you judge them guilty of the crime and condemn them to execution, right? Has nobody condemned you? Well, she states the obvious. No one, sir. Not even him. Then we see the other great statement that people like to quote too, to a lesser extent. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. We like to say it that way. You know, in the older English versions, you know. Go and sin no more. So he not only extends his grace to her, he also implores her to not do what she's doing, because he knows that also. An adulteress is sinning. An adulterer, male, is sinning. A prostitute is sinning for a living. He says, I don't condemn you either. Go and sin no more. That's Jesus. That is God. That is really what God is all of. He says over and over again in the account, and even in the letters, the other Gospels, the letters, Jesus came to show us the Father. I came to show you the Father. This is the Father's heart. He didn't come to condemn. He even says that. I didn't come to judge the world. I came to save the world. Right? I came to uphold the law, but actually execute the law in my own life. Right? When he talks about fulfilling the law, how does one human being fulfill the law? By never sinning. Nobody else had. Nobody else has since. To show what it looks like. He didn't minimize the law. He never minimized the law. See, we forget that. We like to say, well, we're no longer under law. Okay? And we pull in Paul's writings, you know, Romans, Galatians, etc. and stuff. But even he was saying that the law didn't just go away. The law explains. The law highlights what God's will is for us to glorify him and us to be righteous and us to be well cared for and live lives that are honoring him, right? And we decide that we'd rather honor ourselves in this moment, take what we want in this moment, etc., etc., etc. We can never find a way to really completely fulfill that law. And so there's only one way for us to be righteous, which is what? Say it loud for the camera.
For God to pay our penalty.
Yes. Yes. He comes in a human body and actually fulfills it in a human body to begin with. To begin with. Did he have to do that? Well, in our minds, we probably think, well, he could have found all kinds of different, but that's not what he did. Uh-oh. I didn't know we had our own sound effects. That's our theme song.
We've got to run, but I just thought it was interesting about that conscience thing, so I went scrounging through my lexicon.
Oh, yeah?
And the King James Version includes the mention of the conscience. But these others,
Yeah, this is really strange.
it's
Yeah.
just a piece of book.
Yeah, Mark?
What was the penalty in the Torah for false witness?
Ah, see? It was also a capital crime.
I thought so.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a capital crime under Roman law as well.
Yeah.
Under
So-
the 12 tables.
So, which is one of the reasons why the Torah law is, we don't take it as people like to think that they understand the Torah law. And I've come to the conclusion over the past several years that I really did not understand the Torah law as much as I thought I did. And I'm still hanging out with Torah experts online, listening to them and stuff. I want to know really more historically and scripturally what the relationships were between, within the law, because it's really, really, really easy and constantly done is that the Torah is made out to be something very patriarchal, which it was a patriarchal world, a patriarchal society, but not necessarily in the sense that we apply the word. Okay, but that's a different matter. Because when we use the word patriarchy, it's a swear word. Okay, for obvious historical reasons, it's become a swear word, right? But not in the sense that God was taking the patriarchal system and retooling it to where it glorified Him through the Torah. Does that make sense? It's way bigger a conversation than just that. But is it sexist? Is it patriarchal? Is it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? All these different things that is anti. False witness. Okay, from a justice standpoint. Picture a world, the only nation on the planet, in that part of the world, the known world, the civilized Mediterranean world, Northern Africa, any nation that said, here's these laws, and these laws are civil type laws, and here are some criminal laws, and that some are even capital crimes. The local Sanhedrins, because there was also smaller Sanhedrins, but when it first started out, they're wandering around the wilderness. Right? So the judgment was made by the elders of the communities. And if it needed to go to Moses and Aaron, then it would go to Moses and Aaron also, right? But there would be a collective judgment based on collective witnesses. If somebody's life was going to be taken, you had to have sound, credible witness. And the way that that's enforced is that if it's true, those witnesses are the ones that are going to be the first ones to cast the stones. Think about that. Do I really want to see somebody else executed, starting with my own hand? Is it that serious? Right? Number one. Number two, if it's not true, and I come and say, even willing to cast the first stone because I have such animosity or lack of care or just stupidity to make an accusation against somebody and participate in a false witness conspiracy towards somebody, am I willing to be put to death? Because that was the crime too. It was a capital crime too, to make a false accusation to somebody who was going to be put to death as a result. You got put to death. So the checks and balances of justice were very, very really felt amongst the whole entire community. Not so much in Western society nowadays, right, Steve?
So these guys that brought this lady in, supposedly caught her adultery, which was a false witness, they could have been stoned too, couldn't they?
They could have, yes, and they knew that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Jesus doesn't argue with them about whether she was guilty or not. Jesus doesn't argue with them about what the law says about her. He sticks up for her. by calling out their hypocrisy. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's such a strong story, much stronger story, I think, than we give it credit for sometimes. And Mark?
Well, one other thing is, the one who knew whether she is innocent or guilty was Jesus. And Jesus, forgives her.
Yeah. It is such the heart of God. It's such the heart of God that He is demonstrating toward her. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Isn't that what we all want to hear?
Well, it proves he knew she did actually do
Uh-huh.
what he said. So, I mean, he didn't condemn her, but he told her he knew that she did do it.
Yeah. He asks her, did no one condemn you? What does that even imply? That maybe there was truth to the accusation. He didn't say, it's okay, sister, I know that you're not guilty.
No,
He could have said that.
Yeah, she was guilty.
Never implies that she wasn't guilty.
No, it
At all.
implies she was.
Pardon?
It implies she was.
It implies she was. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, by her being innocent, that would change the whole entire story. That's a completely different story. It's way more powerful that she was guilty. Because we're guilty. See, we want to be viewed as innocent. Don't we? Oh, we really want to be viewed as innocent.
Reminds me of the Shawshank Redemption, we're all
Right.
innocent here.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a big deal. Well, we're done with that story, I think, unless somebody else wants to make a comment, and we'll stop there, because it's a great place to stop. We got a couple minutes. I'm going to send out another email this week regarding the potential community leader. Okay. And be looking for it, because it may not look the same way. It may not come out of the same mailing system that your notes come out of. So, anyway. In case you haven't already read it, please, I will copy and paste the information of the original one also into the email. Some of you have replied back, some have not. We want to make a decision soon for the sake of planning. Mark and Nadine have offered their home as a potential place to have a weeknight meeting place to continue through the school year. So read that when I send it out. Yeah. Let's all stand. Thank you so much, Father, for the love that you show through Jesus and the Gospel of John. It's an amazing and humbling and profound thing that you've done for us. And it's beyond words what you've done. And any thanks that we can give you is beyond words too. Thank you for forgiving us. Thank you for offering us your grace in place of judgment. Thank you for exchanging exchanging justice with a justifier in Jesus. And we just are so appreciative, Father. Thank you so much for this love. In Jesus' name, amen. Nice to see you.